Good morning. Good morning. As always, my name is Jamal Taylor. I do this frequently. Today I'll be talking a little bit about the impeachment of Donald J. Trump. I know I only have a few people on. As more people join, I'm going to talk a little bit more. I know it's kind of impromptu to do a Facebook Live, but I appreciate the people that joined on, Nico, Brandon, and everyone else that's joined in. I'm going to talk a little bit today about the impeachment of Donald Trump and his actions on or with regard to the firing of FBI Director James Comey. I know that's not an exciting topic for many, but I definitely think a necessary topic. And so one of the things I'm going to talk about this morning is going to start with the action that we take as a collective group of individuals to engage meaningfully in the process of discussing his actions as a president of the United States. But I'll start with this. On Sunday, I watched with great speculation The Real Housewives of Atlanta. And in that, I saw people engaging in conversations about The Real Housewives of Atlanta in a way that indicated to me that they were very concerned with what Phaedra Parks had said to Kandi Burruss. And though I think that that is indeed a hard conversation to have or to watch, it's concerning because what I saw was us as a collective group of minority youth having a million things to say about what Phaedra did to Kandi. And I know that I'm being tangential here, but if you think about, just follow my logic. I got on Facebook that night and I saw a million comments about the actions of Phaedra against Kandi, and my timeline was lit up with things regarding that behavior. I'm a bit troubled, however, that the same level of outrage has not been levied by people that I hold near and dear, particularly individuals that I have high respects for. And it is because we have been trained in our thought process to imagine that our personal opinion does not give us the power to help to move the wheels of justice, particularly at our highest levels of government. Let me be clear that we have not taken as much angst and anger and frustration with what Donald Trump did on yesterday as we did with what happened on Real Housewives. That's crazy. We've got to get to the place as a group of youth committed and engaged to the process of ensuring that our community is best represented, where we are exercising our free voice in assuring people that we're committed to this process. I want to say that what happened yesterday was a travesty. It is a direct indication of an abuse of power by a president swollen with demagoguery, confusion, and a desire to lead this country as if he is a king. The United States of America prides itself on being a free government. And what I have watched as a young African American male in America is the de-evolution of our government. I have watched our president time and time again take aim at the freest speech that we have by calling the news media fake, and by saying that the investigation was a hoax, and by saying that jurists are not able to effectively provide oversight to his decisions. That's a problem. We have a problem in this country that is deeply, deeply rooted in our inability to exercise judgment against people like Donald Trump. If you're watching, I want you to go to your timeline and post, impeach Donald Trump. We know, let's talk about what we know. We know that the people at the highest level of our government were involved. At best, the National Security Administrator, advisor, was involved in a Russian cover-up. We know that the administration has fervently tried to protect against those things. We also know that the FBI Director James Comey has opened an investigation up into and including here recently, where he got grand jury warrants, according to the Post in the newspapers, to request information from individuals that were involved in those discussions. That on the face puts us in a very precarious position as a country. When the National Security Advisor is compromised and the Trump administration has said, hey, this is phony, or the National Security Advisor should have been vetted by the Obama administration, is indeed a travesty. He has attempted at every turn to blame things on everyone else. One of our former presidents had a placard on his desk that said, "The buck stops here." You ran for president of the United States, Donald Trump. You decided and made a conscious effort to run a campaign. Now you must deal with the fallout. General Flynn was your hire. Reports have said that President Obama talked to you and indicated to you that he was no good. You knew through Sally Yates that he was compromised and waited 18 days to remove him and allowed him to continue to receive top secret and SCIF classified documents. You knew several of these things, and thus you are responsible. The buck stops with you. Your attempt yesterday to fire James Comey is Nixonian at its very best. It is reminiscent of Watergate. It says to me that you're incapable of making informed decisions. And as a layperson, and let's be clear, I'm just a person in the electorate, a person that votes, a person that engages and is involved with the conversation surrounding our elected officials. I have lost trust in his ability to lead as a president of the United States. I have lost trust in his ability to be honest. I have lost trust in his ability to be a true representation of the people in this country. I am sickened, but more importantly, I am outraged. I want the individuals that are in social media complaining about Phaedra Parks and Candy Burris to take that same action here. Demand a special prosecutor. Recognize that this is a cover-up at the highest levels of our government. Recognize that Republicans have inserted themselves into our democracy and as a result of their interference have influenced this country and allowed us to elect a demagogue as president. His inability to effectually run this country needs to immediately stop. Maxine Waters said this, and she said it best: we got to stop his ass. And the reason why we have to do that is to ensure that there's a country left for our children and our children's children. The question is, how do we move forward? And that's not an easy question to answer. What we must do is begin to engage critically in the discussions evolving on social media in the elections that come here in 2018. We have to ensure that we're engaging meaningfully in holding this person accountable. At this point, he has done something very similar to what Nixon did when he fired Archibald Cox as a special prosecutor. Keep in mind that he went through 3 people, Nixon did, 3 people to the 3rd person before somebody would agree. The sad thing here is that he didn't have to try that hard with Jeff Sessions and Rob Robenstein, excuse me for not knowing the newly appointed Deputy Attorney General of the U.S. But what we do know is we know that Jeff Sessions says, I am going to recuse myself from conversations or discussions related to the investigation or Russian hacking or Russian involvement. We also know that Jeff Sessions then sent a letter to the president on yesterday that news reports say the president has been mulling for 1 week and has instructed the attorney general to find a reason to fire this man on the tail of warrants from a grand jury. There is something rotten here. There is something rotten in the White House. We must engage diligently in the process of ensuring that this country is solvent. And it may not be important. You know, we as a group of young electorate sometimes do not recognize the importance of our involvement in the discussions that go on. Take to social media, tag people, get them invested and involved in what it seems is a gross abuse of power by the President of the United States. Tweet at Maxine Waters, tweet at Angela Rye, reach out to those people that are having critical discussions about what's going on in this country. Folks, if we sit silent, you know, for evil to exist, good men sit by and do nothing. We are more involved in the going-ons and happenstances in our personal lives that we are not invested in the global impact that this president is going to have on this country for years to come. We must take action and be informed and be in the know. We've got to read the news. We know that several people were involved in this conversation. We know that the president, on the same day that he received the report from the Attorney General, engaged and terminated the FBI director, while simultaneously an investigation was underway by the Inspector General of the Department of Justice. Folks, there was a pending evaluation of what Director Comey did. However, President Trump found the person that would engage in a conversation about terminating the man that wasn't necessarily attached to the administration since day one. Folks, we know that this president has done nothing but lie, cheat, steal, and fire to get his way. He fired Sally Yates as Attorney General, acting Attorney General, on the heels of her going to his office and talking to his general counsel and telling general counsel for the president that Michael Flynn was compromised. But it was disguised in, oh, she would not follow this immigration ban. We know that he fired the U.S. attorney from New York who was involved directly in this conversation and directly related to the Trump administration's involvement with Russia. We know, as of yesterday, he fired the FBI director. I am reaching out to my friends and people on social media and people that watch my station. I appreciate you guys. I want you to be involved. I want you to take this seriously. I want you to get invested in this discussion as it is deeply related to the future solvency of this country. We must get involved. These people that are hip-hop artists and actors and athletes must begin to call for the special prosecutor that will then in turn change the tide of this discussion. But more importantly, and let me be clear, more importantly than that, we have to make sure that we as lay people are involved in this conversation. If we can make posts about Real Housewives of Atlanta and Empire, then we can make posts about the future of our country. We as a group of young electorate need to stand up to this demagoguery of this president. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in a position where we no longer have a voice. This is as close as I could think to David Duke being in the White House. This is as close as I can think about Nixon remaining as president. We have got to continue to involve ourselves in this process. Otherwise, we will wake up one day and find ourselves in the fields picking cotton and not unable to get a good job because we've refused to engage this process. Donald Trump has never been my president. The majority of Americans did not vote for him. More than he, as I understand it, lost worse than anybody the popular vote of the United States. And thus he is the president of the Electoral College, but he did not get the popular vote of American people. And though we may not be able, as lay people, to personally impeach him, we can call for it. We must call for it. We must commit to engaging this process critically. Otherwise, we run the risk of remaining in the same place that we are, and it's a very scary place to be. Folks, educate yourselves. Watch my videos. If you don't have enough time to go and read the news articles, because I do my due diligence and read those, but recognize that the behavior of this president on yesterday is a grotesque abuse of power that rises to the level, in my opinion, of high crimes and misdemeanors It is an obstruction of justice for him to fire an investigator that was directly involved in the investigation of he and people that were involved with him. And listen, you could say to whomever you want that you didn't know Donald Trump, but birds of a feather flock together. And I know that at some point you were made aware of General Flynn's actions with Russia. And in the words of Maxine Waters, we got to stop your ass. It is time for us to stop posting about the things that don't matter and get involved and invested in the things that matter. This president has got to go. This president that is a puppet of Russia has got to be removed. We must move forward, and we must move henceforth to remove this man. We must continue, yes, Nonika, that is right, to increase the resistance to a regime, because this is what this is. He is as bad as Saddam Hussein, Joseph Stalin. His behaviors are consistent with those of Adolf Hitler. You change the electorate's mind. You infuriate them about people in the minority. You block people from other countries from coming in. You call the media fake. That in itself is a cancerous undertone that is not as consistent as me saying, oh, I'm a racist, or I don't like people of a different religion. It's much more subversive than it was in the past. As I have always said, our historically black colleges and universities need to be hubs of these discussions so that we are involved and invested in these discussions in a much more critical way. We must become or get back to the time